Hello, from poisonous deserts and mountain peaks, where there is almost no air, to walks along the most criminal streets of the world. Today you will find a shocking journey through the most dangerous corners of the planet. Let's go. Pripyat, abandoned city in Ukraine, which has become a legend for everyone who is interested in the topic of post-apocalypse. It was founded in 1970 as a satellite city of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. On April 26, 1986, a terrible accident occurred at the fourth power unit of the station, as a result of which the entire Pripyat population, numbering about 50,000 people, was evacuated. Decades after the disaster, Pripyat still suffers from radioactive precipitation. The city remains closed for ordinary people. Only authorized tourist trips. In most places, the radiation level is not so high to pose a direct threat to health. Today, the city's streets of Pripyat dragged on vegetation, and abandoned buildings with the symbols of the USSR are slowly destroyed. All this creates an incomparable atmosphere. According to scientists, return to a 30-kilometer people will be able to only after 50 to 60 years of alienation around the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. During this time, the activity of radiation elements will decrease, and the most dangerous substances will be finally mothballed. The Citarum River in Indonesia is not the most honorable title of the most dirty river in the world. First, what will you feel if you find yourself on its shores is a terrible dense smell of rotting garbage, mixed with a caustic tone of chemical waste. Numbers that inform about the environmental indicators of the river. Just shock, sir. The concentration of lead in it exceeds the standard permissible for drinking water by 1,000 times, and the level of fecal potassium bacteria is 5,000 times higher than the norm. About 5 million people live in the river basin. Most of them do not have access to normal waste disposal. Therefore, everything, including a huge amount of plastic, is burned or thrown into the river. The second side of the problem is industry. There are more than 2,000 enterprises in the region, most of which are textile factories that drop chemical waste directly into the river. 242, according to ecologists. Due to this pollution in Citarum, he died 60% of fish population. As for people who are forced to use this water for household needs and cooking, they suffer from a huge set of diseases, starting from dermatitis and chronic bronchitis, and ending with oncological diseases and delayed children's development. In 2009, the Asian Development Bank allocated $500 million for a river cleaning project, but the situation is still difficult. According to activists, many factories continue to poison the river through hidden pipes. It is hard to believe that in the 21st century, the existence of tribes is possible, living in complete isolation from civilization. But several non-contact peoples on the planet still exist. One of them is the tribe of the Sentinels, known for their warlike disposition. They live on North Beach, a small island in Bengal Gulf, relating to the Andaman archipelago. The island is completely covered with a dense tropical forest and is surrounded by a protective belt of the coral reef, which, however, was badly damaged by the powerful tsunami in December 2004. More detailed information neither about the island nor about the tribe inhabiting it. Because the Sentinels do not allow anyone to enter the shore, they immediately attack boats and helicopters from bows and are not at all set up to make contact. According to anthropologists, this tribe has lived in a complete isolation of about 30,000 years and leads the life of hunters-gatherers Stone Age. Even the number of sentinels unknown, because the jungle protects them from air constellations, an incredible cold that fetters the air and earth. The temperature is below 50 degrees Celsius. It is such extreme weather that is typical for the remote territory in the heart of Russian Siberia, Yakutia. also known as Republic of Secca. The area of this vast northern region is more than 3 million square kilometers. This is 4.5 times more than Texas. Sharply continental climate. It differs in short summer and long winter, which lasts from October to April. It is in Yakutia that one of the poles of the cold is located in Embark. This is a village with a population of about 500 a person, where they record the lowest temperatures throughout the northern hemisphere. The record was registered with local meteorological station in 1933. It amounted to -67.7 degrees Celsius. Such a hard climate makes life here is a real test, which concerns all spheres of existence, from construction houses to clothes, which should provide maximum protection. Even just breathing with such cold air is not easy. It is better to use a scarf instead of agriculture in these places is popular for a long fishing, and cars are not here turned off for months. If you drown out the car at night, it will freeze so that it will be impossible to start it. Lahore, the capital of the province of Punjab and the second the size of the city of Pakistan, about 10 million live in his urban agglomeration human. In recent years, this metropolis has encountered a huge problem of pollution air that provokes respiratory diseases in the local population. The poisonous cold, which can be observed even visually, occurs due to the work of many enterprises burning agricultural waste and diesel exhausts. 626 breathing here in calm weather. It is incredibly difficult, and few air purifiers in houses are available to anyone. According to ecologists, the air quality index here is 348 points, which greatly exceeds the dangerous indicator of 300 points. That is why it is impossible to be calm if you live next to the volcano. Stratovolcan Sinabung is located in Indonesia, in the northern part of Sumatra Island. A mountain with a relative height of 1133 meters has not caused fears of local residents for a long time. The volcano slept for more than 400 years. Everything has changed in August 2010. When an eruption suddenly began, gas and ash emissions forced the inhabitants of 12 villages located nearby throw your homes and run to a safe distance. Since then, the activity of Sinabung has not subsided. In recent years, eruptions have occurred around 10 times. They included an outpouring of lava, as well as emissions of the pillars of volcanic ash and hot gas up to 3 kilometers high. After a powerful eruption that occurred on February 11, 2014, this part of the Sumatra became almost abandoned. In total, due to the activity of the volcano, about 20,000 people were forced to move to other regions. A water trip on the Amazon is a rather risky adventure. This great river flows into the Atlantic Ocean, forming one of the largest deltas in the world. With an area of over 100,000 square kilometers, Amazonia is striking in a variety of flora and fauna. More than 1 million different plants and animals live here. This is a truly world genetic fund. Among this wealth, there are also very aggressive species that are deadly for humans. In the jungle, the travelers are threatened with poisonous snakes, giant anacondas in climbing and in water. A special thrill is caused by the black caiman, able to grow more than 4-5 meters in length, and piranhas with her frightening, sharp, like razor. And piranhas with her frightening, sharp teeth like a razor. Such a surrealistically bright landscape can be seen only in one place on Earth, Donahue's Loch, located in the northern part of the Fars Basin, on the border of Ethiopia and Eritrea. This is a truly unique, full mysteries geographical education. Here you can find sulfur springs and volcanoes of geysers, acid pools, and huge salt fields. Only one thing about Donahue's we can say exactly: the conditions here are completely unsuitable for a person with a hollow 250 kilometers are among the lowest places on the planet of 125 meters below the sea level, and wears the title of the hottest places given the average temperature during the year. It never drops below 34 degrees Celsius and rains only several times a year due to volcanic and hydrothermal activity. Air here is filled with the smell rusty sulfurs and chlorine, and the lakes are so salty that birds who accidentally dive into the water immediately die. Even for representatives of the Lafar people, which roamed in these territories for centuries, to visit the poisonous hollow is a difficult task, and scientists who are engaged in research of extreme media and ecosystems are called the expedition here is traveling to the kingdom of death. Mount Everest, also known as Sagarmatha or Jamaloma, does not need to be presented. This is an undeniable peak of the world, 8,848 meters high. Sherpas living in eastern Nepal call it a mountain over which birds cannot fly. Everest is located in the Himalayas, in the Mackandra-Himal ridge, separating Nepal and Tibet. The top has the shape of a trihedral pyramid, with a steep southern slope on which even snow and ice are not held. As the highest peak of the earth, Everest has always attracted the attention of climbers. The first successful ascent took place in 1953. It was carried out by the local conductor Tenzing Norgay in New Zealand. Edmund Hillary. By 1983, there were only 8 people who reached the top. The conditions of climb here are monstrously difficult, to a complex relief on all possible rise routes. You need to wet weather. The average daily temperature at the top of Jamalumps in July -19 degrees Celsius, and in the winter months -36, with lowering to -60. In addition, the peak is located on the border of the high-rise stream in the atmosphere, so they often happen here storms with wind gusts up to 160 kilometers per hour, and summer monsoons turn into extensive on the average snowfalls. At an altitude of 7925 meters, the death zone begins. The air contains only a third in the air, the amount of oxygen that is present in the atmosphere at sea level. So most climbers use oxygen masks. Many deaths among high mountain climbers are associated with the influence of the dead zone, as direct due to a lack of oxygen and low pressure, and indirect when stress and exhaustion lead to tragic errors. Just for the centenary history of the conquest of Everest died more than 300 people. In addition to problems with health, avalanches, falls from a height, and collapses of ice were led to a fatal denouement. Fifthly, Rio de Janeiro is a legendary place with a very bad reputation. These are areas with cheap and chaotic development, where poverty and crime reign, and violence is the norm. Their occurrence goes deep into history. Initially, the term favela arose at the end of the century to designate part of the Morro de Favela hill, on which the first slums began to be built. Former soldiers, refugees, liberated slaves, and poor migrants from Europe were typical inhabitants of the barracks in that era. In the 20th century, FEL only grew, thanks to the process of urbanization and exacerbation of social problems, the main of them unemployment and development of organized crime associated with drug trafficking. They have not disappeared anywhere today. Today, according to approximate estimates, Rio lives in informal quarters about 1.5 million people. The territory of Duffet, scattered through the hills, is divided between groups: a person from the side or a carefree tourist who does not have a guide. The walk here can be very expensive. Moreover, the police here appear only during assaults, and although the country's authorities are making efforts to develop the infrastructure and integration of favela, they still remain a separate world with their cruel laws. In recent years, the very name Fukushima has become a common concept, a symbol of a terrible nuclear threat. March 11, 2011, the largest earthquake of magnitude 9 points on the Richter scale. However, the most terrible event of those days, there was a disaster at the Fukushima-1 nuclear power plant, a radiation accident of the maximum 7th level international scale of nuclear events. tsunami almost instantly de-energized the station, including systems emergency cooling. Reactors overheated, melting nuclear fuel, and the following explosions of 3 power units followed. A large number of volatile radioactive elements. The total volume of emissions of isotope iodine and cesium, the most dangerous from the point of view of the threat of health. It made up approximately 20% of emissions during the Chernobyl accident. At the same time, cesium has the property of prolonged pollution. The period of its half-life 30 years. Such a dangerous infection forced the government countries to evacuate from the prefecture of Fukushima about 164,000 people around the station to create a forbidden zone with radius 20 kilometers, and all the work on the restoration of polluted territories began almost immediately after the accident, and now the territory of many municipalities is recognized as accessible to return. People are in no hurry to go to the place poisoned by radiation. In one of the zones of reconstruction and revival, with an area of 28 square, 8,000 inhabitants lived earlier, and after the completion of deactivation, they returned here only 160 over the years spent without the presence of a person. Once county places have turned in terrible post-apocalyptic locations. As explosions suffer from destructive power, tornado more than any other country in the world. Every year, about 1,000 tornado is fixed here. The zone of increased danger is especially distinguished. The so-called area of tornado. It includes the territories of the central and southern states, the north of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, the eastern regions of South Dakota and Colorado. Such zonality has objective reasons. It is in the center of the United States warm humid air from the Mexican Gulf with cold and dry northern winds. Temperature inversion occurs and an unstable state of the atmosphere, which leads to strong thunders of hail and tornado. The most dangerous area of tornado is from April to June. It was in these months that hunters come to the region from around the world for tornadoes, and for those who live here constantly, the threat of a tornado is an object of constant anxiety. In the cities of these states, there are strict standards for the strength of the buildings, and many of them are equipped underground shelters. In addition, residents notify special about the possible approach of a tornado sirens. Despite all measures, the element power is too great in this video. The consequences of a powerful tornado which Undomer hit the city in Kansas in the spring of 2022 then, for several minutes, a tornado category, an F3 destroyed more than 100 houses. Perhaps this is one of the most hostiles to a person on the whole planet. Dry and hot valley of death in California. This intermountain cavity in the area of the Mojave Desert is located southeast of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. It rains here is a real miracle. The average annual indicator is not more than 10 millimeters of precipitation, but there is no shortage in the sunlight. The average maximum temperature in July reaches 46 degrees Celsius, and in 1913, there was an absolute record for air temperature in the Western Hemispheres, plus 56.7 degrees Celsius. The climatic phenomenon of the Hollow, which is also the lowest point of North America, 86 meters below sea level, poses a serious threat for travelers. 1837, I strongly recommend tourists to stock up on communications, water and clothing that protects against burns. Even the name of the valley itself received in honor the tragic case when the gold detector died here in 1849 from the terrible heat. Time is time. It is hard to believe that in the 21st century, ships must be equipped with protection from a pirate board. Sailors of different countries had to resort to such measures because of the pirate crisis, which worsened in the Aden Gulf in the early 2000s. This bay in the Arabian Sea plays an important economic role, being a water path for the transportation of oil from Persian Gulf to Europe. This was used by criminals from Somalia, an East African country immersed in the chaos of the civil war. For a significant part, the population of piracy has turned into the professional lesson. Pirates armed with small arms and grenade launches, tankers and other civilian ships attacked in small boats and then demanded a ransom of several $1 million for liberation. During the attacks, several dancing sailors died or missed. For a few pirates were captured by dancings of ships, and their income exceeded Somalia GDP. Only in 2010 the damage from the seizure of ships amounted to $8 billion. It was possible to stop regular sea robbery only after 2012, when the UN released a resolution allowing warships of different countries to enter territorial waters where Somalia joined the battle with the pirates. From a bird's height of the island Cape Grande, whose area is only 43 hectares, looks picturesque and attractive, but this is only until you recognize his main secret. In fact, to the island off the coast, the Brazilian state of São Paulo at the legislative level is forbidden to even swim. This is one of the most dangerous places in the world because 4,000 snakes live here. This natural serpentarium arose about 11,000 years ago, when an increase in sea level cut off the island from the mainland. As a result, there was a huge endemic population of snakes from the family of the Viper's Island batrops. Their number here is simply crazy. For each square meter accounts for 1 to 5 looking around. It is literally impossible for a person to step a step. Batropses are hundreds on the beach, and on trees and bushes, they come into huge balls. These are quite large snakes to a meter long, with a massive head and golden color with dark spots. High competition for food. I made these vipers champions in toxicity of poison. The bitten mouse dies during 2 seconds, and for a person, poison is also deadly. It causes a number of terrible consequences, from renal failure to internal bleeding and withering away of tissues. These deserted places resemble a strange dream or locations of a computer game. On these shots, Tiandekan, one of the Chinese ghost cities, local copy of Paris in miniature. We are used to the fact that ghost cities call once prosperous places that have become abandoned. But in modern China, the opposite is true. These are completely new objects, areas or even cities that were designed for a large number of inhabitants, but they turned out to be untouchable. For example, Tianjin was built in 2007 with a calculation of 10,000 residents. The reasons are in the economic sphere. For a long time, the country was experiencing construction boom, and in some places, the development was carried out recklessly, without analyzing the market. It happens so that people buy real estate as an investment, but do not move to new buildings due to a lack infrastructure. One of the vivid examples is the city of Ordos, in the center of the coal industry. In 2004, built a suburb designed for 1 million human, but in the first 8 years, only 30,000 moved here. It is amazing that it is intricate and noisy. China arose such deserted and frightening places. These are definitely not the little animals that you dream of seeing during a trip to nature. But for the island of Fraser off the east coast, Australia is the norm. The largest sandy island in the world. Its common area is 1,840 square kilometers, literally teeming not the most friendly representatives to man fauna. 750,000 years on a volcanic island accumulated sand, which is now the dune constantly moving through thick mangroves and swamps. During that evolution, a unique isolated ecosystem was formed here. 47 species of mammals, 354 species of birds, 79 species of reptiles, including 19 types of snakes, among other species of spiders. One of the most poisonous in the world lives here, the long-toothed spider hairy. But dingo's dogs, whose population are about 200 individuals, receive the greatest glory on the island. They are hung everywhere on Fraser warnings, about the danger of these rat dogs and camping are fenced with electricity fences, it is important for tourists and fishermen who visit the sandy island not to forget that despite the harmless appearance of dingo is completely wild flocks that can pose a serious threat. At a depth of 300 meters under the Mexican city of Nike, one of the most fascinating places is hidden on the planet, a cave of crystals. This amazing part of the mine, where silver, zinc and lead are mined, it was discovered by miners in 2000. The giant selalinite crystals cross the cave space in different directions. The largest of them has phenomenal dimensions, 11 meters in length and 4 meters wide, with a mass of 55 tons. But do not rush to rejoice. The beauty of this cave is deceiving. It is dangerous for health and life. The cave is constantly flooded, and water from it has to be pumped out. Air humidity reaches 100 packs, and the temperature in the dungeon rises to plus 58 degrees Celsius. Even with cooling equipment, you cannot linger here for more than 20 minutes. Otherwise, in the lungs will begin condenses the water of the crystal cave. This place where nature shows its power and beauty, but at the same time reminds us of the fragility of human life. Lake Boiling is located in the island state of Dominic in the middle of tropical forests. National Park Montreux Python. You cannot get to the lake by car. Travelers will have to walk about 13 kilometers along the picturesque paths, overcoming the gorge Titus, the Breakfast River and Sulphur Springs in the Desolation Valley. Those who got are waiting for a strange spectacle. The lake resembles a boiling boiler with a gray ebon liquid swimming in a pond, the diameter of which is about 60 meters. A definitely bad idea. The temperature in the boiler reaches 92 degrees Celsius, except that underwater there may be streams of hot air or even lava. The fact is the boiling is flooded fumarola, that is, the rocky hole at the foot of the volcano. Water that is brought by streams and atmospheric precipitation seeps into magma and heats up to the boil temperature, dissolving many chemical substances. Even located by the lake is very uncomfortable. The air is hot and humid, with the smell of sulfur and invisible particles of steam that leave the thermal lake. It can be dangerous for the skin and eyes, and you can't see that going right in the center there. Good job.